Tonight, on the world's most amazing videos, an explosives crew is blasted into the air when a demolition goes bad and blows up in their faces. Plus, a motorcycle rockets out of control, launching its rider into the crowd. And a soccer stadium collapses, and hundreds of terrified fans hang on for their lives. Plus, a sports car careens off the track and slams into a helpless woman. And a peaceful village is rocked when a fireworks factory erupts in a fireball of flames. These are the incredible true life stories of people who face their most desperate hour and live to tell about it. Everything you are about to see is real. Real people, real danger, real excitement. Get ready to experience the thrill of a lifetime. You are about to witness the world's most amazing videos.
Phoenix, Arizona. An escaped prisoner is being pursued by the Arizona Highway Patrol. Officer Tim Mason volunteers for the risky assignment of puncturing the suspect's tires. Mason leaves the safety of his patrol car to single-handedly face down the fugitive and his passenger. He throws out a device called a stop stick, which is designed to blow out the suspect's tires and disable the vehicle. The metal spikes pierce the treads, but the desperate driver refuses to stop.
I think deep down inside he knew he was going to jail, but he was going to do everything he could in his power to prevent that from happening.
Officer Mason races ahead and tries again to stop the suspect. But he continues to flee.
773, all his tires are out.
The officer can hardly believe what he sees next. The driver plunges a hypodermic needle into his arm.
You can see right now he's injecting drugs into his wrist. He's got a syringe in his wrist. He is pushing all kinds of dope into his wrist right now.
That is pure desperation in my book. I think at that point reality hit him. He knew he was had. Yet, let's get a little bit more doped up before I have to go in.
Watch again as the suspect takes both hands off the wheel to inject himself with methamphetamine.
Okay, he's gonna lose it right here. So he's going, There he goes. Oh.
Fueled by the powerful stimulant, the convict reaches new levels of insanity. Now he's endangering even more innocent lives. The rubber on his tires is gone, and he's driving only on the rims. Suddenly, the drug-crazed outlaw makes his most daring move.
He decided to do the one thing that literally made my jaw hit the floor. I thought, good Lord, this is gonna get bad and ugly right now.
Getting on the freeway the wrong way.
The suspect veers away from the officers and turns onto the interstate, heading the wrong way.
The truck is like a gun. It's like a loaded weapon. And if he points it in the wrong direction, a lot of innocent people are gonna get hurt.
The police are determined to stop the madman before he causes a head-on collision. Again, it's Officer Mason who bravely volunteers.
773, can I box him into the wall? 773, can I box him into the wall?
Mason attempts a maneuver that places his own life at risk. He positions his patrol car alongside the truck, and at the right moment, he rams the pickup. Watch again as Mason forces the truck off the road.
He could roll, you know, he could be killed. It could put me in a position where my vehicle rolls and I could be seriously injured or killed.
Look closely as the driver, stunned by the impact, throws up his hands, but Mason keeps his gas pedal floored. The truck is sent careening onto the shoulder of the road.
7-3, vehicle stopped.
Now there's nowhere left to run.
Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Don't you move!
With guns drawn, the troopers take the men into custody.
Keep them up where you can see them!
Thanks to the heroic efforts of Officer Tim Mason and the Arizona Highway Patrol, this reckless rampage is over.
Get your hands up! Get your hands up!
Taipei, Taiwan. The national legislature is locked in a heated debate over a new state lottery. Minority party members bang their desks, demanding to be heard. When the majority leader won't let them speak, they stage a sit-down demonstration. But the leader still refuses to listen. Suddenly, an enraged politician named Lee Mun-chung storms the podium, throwing books and papers in protest. Party members try to restrain Lee, but the furious statesman fights back with flying fists. He triggers a partisan-pounding free-for-all. Lee rushes down the aisle and charges an opponent, grabbing him by the hair. The man strikes back, clawing and gouging at Lee's face and eyes. The battle grows as the politicians clash in a frightening display of lawlessness. Some members try to restore order, but can't calm the fury of Lee Mun-chung. He lashes out at another rival. Landing one bruising blow after another. Supporters in Lee's corner try to calm him down. But the Taiwanese terror storms back into the fray. He arms himself with a wooden flagstick and pummels a defenseless opponent. Finally, the fighting stops. But it will be many months before this hallowed hall of justice recovers from Lee Mun-chung's ferocious filibuster. Orange County, California. Kevin Rubio, nicknamed the Banana Man, is riding his bright yellow bike at the Costa Mesa Speedway. This championship event is extremely dangerous because these high-speed machines don't have brakes. Entering the last lap, the Banana Man is no longer in the lead. He is falling behind and must go all out to regain the top spot. He waits for an opportunity and then makes his move. Watch again as Kevin tries to pass the others and loses control. The motorcycle crashes into the wall at more than 50 miles per hour, launching Kevin into the crowd like a somersaulting human cannonball. Kevin's girlfriend, Suzanne Hallowell, looks on, fearing the worst.
He was on the ground and he wasn't getting up, and just thoughts were going through my mind, like, is he dead? Is he paralyzed?
A closer look at the collision shows Kevin's legs hitting the wall and flipping him 10 feet into the air. His body bends violently in half as he slams into a solid steel railing.
The way his body moved, it just didn't seem natural at all.
Considering the speed of the crash and the brutal impact, it's a miracle that Kevin survives with only minor injuries.
Had I hit him any other way, that could have been the end of it. If my neck had made contact on the first blow, I could have been dead or paralyzed.
Remarkably, Kevin goes on to race again, but he will always carry with him the memory of the terrifying ride that was almost his last.
I look at the video in awe, and I'm thankful that I'm still alive. I know that God was watching out for me that night.
Coming up, a ship full of dynamite explodes, threatening the lives of the people on board. Plus, a driver takes a dangerous turn, pinning a terrified woman to the pavement. Then later, it's hell to pay when a good cat goes bad. And a quiet town is rocked when a fireworks factory is blasted to bits. When the world's most amazing videos returns.
Brisbane, Australia. Deep beneath the surface of Moreton Bay lies an artificial reef, a spectacular marine life sanctuary made from coral growing on sunken ships. But these tranquil waters are also the site of one of the most horrific maritime disasters ever caught on tape. A century-old barge named the Enterprise is about to be buried at sea. The plan is to sink the 150-foot-long ship by blasting gigantic holes in the steel hull with explosives. It is extremely hazardous, and no one knows that better than Lex Gordon. He has been supervising demolitions for more than 25 years.
The dangers in working with explosives are really quite endless. Arms tore off, bodies tore apart, eyes gone, and you can die.
Lex and his crew carefully rigged 6 charges containing 2.5 pounds of plastic explosives deep into the belly of the barge. Then, a siren blares and a red flag is waved, warning boaters in the area that there are only 30 seconds until detonation. It's hard to believe, but Lex and his team are staying aboard the ship that they are about to destroy. He says that this way he will have more control over the demolition. He's also calculated that the blast will not be powerful enough to endanger him or his men. But something goes wrong. A closer look reveals that a terrible mistake has been made. The explosion is more powerful than anyone expected. Lex is blown off his feet. Take another look. Lex is blasted into the air. He crashes down onto the steel deck. Spectators on nearby boats fear the worst.
Someone's down. Someone's down.
Peter, anyone injured?
Lex is alive, but he can't move his legs.
I think his leg's broken.
He thinks his leg's broken.
He is disoriented, and the ship is sinking much faster than he had planned.
Get off the boat as quick as you can.
Within minutes, the doomed vessel will plunge to the bottom of the bay. Michael Lee, the man who ignited the blast, knows that there's little time to get Lex to safety.
I felt there was a danger of Lex possibly dying because he was not able to move at all. He was inching along and the boat was sinking quite rapidly.
Somehow, the crew manages to help Lex off the barge just seconds before the deck is submerged. Lex is raced to the hospital.
I was quite conscious when I was taken off the barge. Great deal of pain and trembling, which I assume was shock. A lot of whimpering and whining. That was me that was doing all this.
Less than 5 minutes after the horrific explosion, the bow of the Enterprise vanishes beneath the surface of Moreton Bay. Looking back on this disaster, Lex admits he underestimated the power of the explosives.
I felt I'd let everyone down, my co-workers, the project, and particularly I let myself down. I made that mistake.
Lex makes a full recovery, but he will never forget the day he almost went down with the ship. Monte Carlo, Monaco. Sports car enthusiasts from around the world take to the track in their high-powered machines at this exclusive road rally. The Ferrari company is showing off a brand new $1 million F50. The race car is rigged with a video camera to record the ride as amateur drivers live the fantasy of being a world champion. But a steady rain is falling and the course is slick. These hazardous conditions would present a challenge even to skilled professionals. With novice drivers behind the wheels, the judges on the raceway find themselves in dangerous situations. There are a few close calls. But then, one of the amateurs struggles to control the high-performance Ferrari. Watch again as the racer careens off course and heads straight for Judge Jocelyn Cipro. She signals the driver to turn right, but he can't steer. The brakes lock up and the car skids. The impact slams Jocelyn down the concrete embankment. The F-50's video camera captures the most graphic view of the horrifying crash. For Jocelyn, there is no escape. Unable to avoid her, the driver plows into the helpless woman. She lands on the hood as the Ferrari slides off the roadway and crashes into a storefront. Rally officials rush to the scene. One man grabs a fire extinguisher, fearing the car might burst into flames. When rescue crews arrive, they are amazed by what they see. Both Jocelyn and the driver have survived without serious injury. Another look at the tape reveals how close Jocelyn came to being dragged beneath the skidding sports car. The front wheels hit the curb at the edge of the track, preventing Jocelyn from being crushed under the 2,000 pounds of twisted metal. The accident is a terrifying reminder that racing these high-performance sports cars is better left in the hands of professionals.
Now, an amazing video classic.
Auburn, California. Placer County Animal Control Officer Carl Pritchard is appearing on a local TV show.
This is Pinky. He's a male cat, domestic short hair.
Pritchard is trying to find a new home for this abandoned kitty.
He's a very loving cat.
Problem is, Pinky doesn't want to go.
Pinky.
Pinky, whoa.
We got a wildcat on our hands.
Colleen McGuire, the director of animal control, moves in and tries to cover the ferocious feline with a box. But the flimsy cardboard can't contain Pinky's rage.
Just sit it over. Get this pull.
Get down pull together?
Yeah, because I'm not going to grab him.
As Pinky fights to break free, Pritchard struggles to keep the animal from injuring itself. But when Pinky goes into a violent spiral up the officer's leg, the cat's safety is no longer his #1 priority. Pinky sinks his claws and teeth into the officer's groin. As Pritchard tries desperately to pry him loose, the cat clamps down even harder.
Of course, I let out this horrible scream. I mean, it was painful. You know, that's a tender area on anybody, male or female. I'm sorry, it is.
Finally, Pritchard manages to remove the animal from his leg. He's rushed to the hospital with 2 deep puncture wounds.
It was rather, a little embarrassing, to have to drop your pants and show this nurse where you were bit. I mean, this cat left a hole in my pants, this big.
But Officer Pritchard wants people to know that this unusual incident is not typical of most pet adoptions.
You got to look at it, from the animal's point of view. This animal felt threatened, and its basic instinct was to get away.
Next up, 18,000 pounds of fireworks explode, blowing a factory sky high. Plus, rescuers put their lives on the line to save a terrified man from a raging river. Then later, a stunt goes bad, engulfing a man in a ferocious fireball. When the world's most amazing videos returns.
Black Canyon, Arizona. A raging tornado has trapped 2 men in a pickup truck. Now rescuers must race against time to save them. Their ordeal began when the men tried to tow this stranded van out of the flood. One of the men manages to climb onto the roof of the vehicle. An emergency helicopter arrives and hovers above as rescuers pull the terrified man onto the landing skid. Once he's safely aboard, he is returned to dry land. Now the rescuers must turn their attention to Joe Rose, who is still inside the truck. But Joe's leg is pinned between the seat and the door of the pickup, and he can't get out. Rescuer Rick Logan has few options.
If I open the door, he's gone. Because he's up through it, the top of the door frame is going to knock him right back in the water.
The men have to act quickly because the rescue chopper's fuel tanks are almost empty.
He says he's got about 15 more minutes of fuel, so he's got enough for one more try.
Joe has been in the frigid water for 3 hours. He's so cold and weak that he can barely hold on. Logan and Sergeant John Hutchison make one last-ditch effort to save him. Clinging to the roof of the pickup, the 2 men manage to free Joe's legs. Finally, they are able to drag Joe onto the chopper's landing struts. But before they can get him on board, he slips and falls headfirst into the raging current. Watch again. Logan hangs on to one of Joe's legs, desperately trying to keep him from being swept away. Then, Hutchison grabs Joe's arm just as Logan loses his grip. Somehow, the rescuers manage to get him back onto the roof. Suddenly, the frightened man becomes hysterical and grabs hold of Logan's legs.
His grip was superhuman. It was just unreal, and that's all he wanted to do was grab everything.
Hutchison has no choice. He must force the man to let go.
I had to use several strikes to the chest and the arms to break his grip so I could pull him back on the top of the truck so he wouldn't fall off.
The rescuers finally strap Joe into a harness and prepare to airlift him to shore, but he's too afraid to let go of the truck. Then, more trouble. Joe tumbles into the churning water. This time, the harness prevents him from being dragged into the violent river.
When we finally picked him up, I was hoping that he wouldn't fall out of the harness, because we were over the water at that point and there was nothing else we could do.
The helicopter's tanks are almost empty and Joe's life is slipping away. With no time to pull him into the chopper, the crew must drag Joe to dry land. Back on shore, he is rushed to a waiting ambulance. Miraculously, Joe survives, thanks to the men who risked their lives to save his. Castaic, California. A fistfight in a correctional facility explodes into a full-scale riot. The inmates square off using makeshift weapons. The brawlers throw whatever they can get their hands on. Then, the confrontation takes a potentially deadly turn. A rioter throws a metal container, narrowly missing other prisoners who are huddled against the wall. But the rampage comes to a sudden halt. Explosive grenades are thrown. One of the inmates is hit while others run for cover. The intense blasts rattle the walls as smoke fills the room. But the guards aren't throwing ordinary hand grenades. They're using non-lethal weapons called sting balls. When the devices explode, they spray a barrage of 100 tiny, hard rubber balls, immobilizing their target. According to Corrections Officer Chuck Helton, these weapons are extremely powerful.
Being struck with a sting ball would probably feel similar to a baseball pitcher hitting you with a 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
An inmate who's been hit in the side by a sting ball is led out of the cell block to be questioned.
Can you lift up your right arm? All right, that's the result of the sting ball.
Since this facility is full of vicious gang members, guards are thankful to have these new devices to maintain the peace. Although sting balls are painful, the highly effective weapons help guards restore order without using deadly force or putting their own lives in danger.
Now for the viewer video of the week, sent to us by Harold Gibbings of Devon, England.
The peaceful village of Devon is home to one of England's largest fireworks factories. But the tranquility is shattered when a tiny spark sets off 18,000 pounds of explosives. 13 workers are still trapped inside the building as the firestorm rages out of control.
It was a bit like a caged tiger that actually you had as a pet. And suddenly you realised that when it got out of the cage and it was hungry and it was angry, that it was turning into a sort of monstrous beast.
Firefighters arrive as more blasts rock the village.
I was actually only about 80 yards away from the building when it literally exploded into pieces.
Panicked residents flee their homes and businesses. Among them is Michael Perry from a neighboring mill.
People running for cover, people in hysterics crying, running up the road. There was debris flying over the top of our mill, landing everywhere in the road.
The endless barrage launches blazing fragments of glass and debris in every direction.
People 10 miles away who said that their window panes rattled.
The firefighters must stay clear because there is no way to tell how much gunpowder is yet to explode. They are unable to reach the workers inside.
There's a girlfriend of ours that works in there. I think she's dead.
After an intense battle, firefighters managed to bring the inferno under control. As rescue workers dig through the rubble, they discover that miraculously, all 13 workers have gotten out alive.
When you consider the power of this blast, it really is a miracle.
Up next, a violent storm destroys a century-old pier and sweeps terrified workers out to sea. Plus, rodeo cowboys hang on for their lives when two wild Mustangs collide head-on. Then later, celebration turns to horror when soccer fans are pushed over the edge. When the world's most amazing videos returns.
Ellensburg, Washington. The annual rodeo, it's man against beast as teams compete to be the first to catch, then ride a wild horse across the finish line. The bucking Broncos put up a ferocious fight. One is wrestled to the ground, but it quickly regains its footing and kicks violently at the Cowboys. Another team struggles to control their horse. In a remarkable display of teamwork and precision timing, the men finally manage to saddle the 1,000-pound stallion. The rider jumps on and heads for the finish line. Now the race is on for second place. But then, two wild horses racing at 30 miles an hour slam into each other with tremendous force. Incredibly, the riders are only stunned by the bone-crushing collision. But what about the horses? Veterinarian Ken McCrae fears that one of the animals has broken its neck.
I think most people assume that he was probably killed outright, but that's not the case at all. And fate was on his side.
Amazingly, both horses managed to get to their feet and survive the crash that almost cost them their lives. Flagler Beach, Florida. A half-century-old fishing pier is undergoing reconstruction. 650 feet from shore, a crane is being used to dismantle the last of the old wooden pilings. But a severe storm is moving in, with waves building in size and power. Back on the pier, the construction workers race to protect their tools and equipment. As the storm gets closer, John Toft senses they're in great danger.
My goal was to secure what we had out there and leave, naturally, as quickly as we possibly could.
The surf swells to 15 feet. Toft and fellow worker John Anderson are attempting to tie down the crane. But suddenly, a massive wave smashes over the pier. It slams the crew with full force. Sweeping Anderson into the churning sea. Anderson, in the dark clothing, is standing behind Toft when the breaker hits. Toft runs to throw him a life preserver, but it's too late. Anderson is nowhere to be found. The men search for Anderson, unaware that their own lives are in danger.
I'm going to count contractor personnel.
Just 10 feet away, a section of the pier sways in the pounding surf. Then suddenly, the towering structure collapses into the raging ocean.
This was the end of the pier.
The sound of the waves was deafening, thundering. And there was a large creaking sound, and then it was gone.
Somehow, Toft and another man make it to safety. They dodge the heavy beams that crash down around them. Despite this horrifying close call, the men turn their attention back to their co-worker, who is yet to be seen. Then they spot something in the water. It's John Anderson, and he's alive.
I remember hitting the water and then looking up and staying away from all the extra lumber that's down there. And I can still see there's more of it still coming down.
Anderson struggles to stay afloat as giant sections of wood rain down from the disintegrating pier.
Well, I remember being in the water and looking for something to hold on to. I had a bunch of coats and everything on. I kept going south, and I was heading south hard.
The current sweeps Anderson out of harm's way, allowing him to escape with only minor injury.
I'll never forget the day we were out there and the power of the ocean. I'm very fortunate and very lucky that we all walked away from there unscathed and unhurt.
Sao Paulo, Brazil. Fernanda Viana is being held hostage at gunpoint. The gunman is Leonardo Pereja, an escaped convict who has been sentenced to 40 years for murder. The desperate fugitive is demanding $50,000 and a getaway car. Officers surround the building. But Pereja uses Fernanda as a human shield, cloaking them both in a sheet to prevent sharpshooters from getting a clear shot. Retreating to the second floor, the kidnapper parades his tearful hostage in the window. Fernanda cries out for help. After several agonizing hours, police agree to pay the ransom. Pereja allows a negotiator to approach him with a cell phone, so he can confirm that the money has been transferred to a special bank account. But police inform him that until he releases the girl, there will be no car. The crazed gunman is enraged. Suddenly, he opens fire on a crowd of onlookers. Thankfully, no one is hurt. Police finally convince Pereja to allow a volunteer to take Fernanda's place. Luis da Silva, a friend of the young woman's family, bravely steps forward to change places with her. After the exchange, Fernanda is rushed away to be reunited with her family. The standoff is far from over. Pereja orders the police to tape newspapers in the windows of the getaway car to shield him from the view of sharpshooters. When darkness falls, he forces Da Silva into the car. Officers agree to keep their distance, and the fugitive vanishes into the night. Fortunately, the hostage is released unharmed. Pereja escapes, but is captured 2 months later and returned to this penitentiary. But this outlaw isn't about to end his reign of terror. Pereja strikes again. This time, he leads a prison uprising and takes the warden hostage. Once more, he demands a ransom. But he also wants 40 getaway cars, so he can lead more than 100 prisoners in a massive jailbreak. When authorities refuse, Pereja fires into the air, threatening to kill the warden. The terrified hostage cries out for mercy. Outside the prison walls, the warden's son pleads for his father's life. Again, the police have no choice but to meet the brazen gunman's demand. That evening, Pereja parades the convoy of convicts out of the penitentiary gates, but they don't get far. A police ambush brings the daring escape to a sudden halt. All of the fugitives are captured and returned to the prison. All that is, except for Leonardo Pereja. Incredibly, he evades arrest a second time. But police haven't seen the last of the man who orchestrated one of the nation's largest prison breaks. Shockingly, after a month in hiding, Pereja contacts a reporter and agrees to surrender on live television.
Someday I will be caught and I may be killed, but I don't want anyone else to die with me, and that is why I'm surrendering.
Because of his crimes, Pereja is sent to a maximum security prison for the rest of his life, finally bringing to a close one of the most notorious criminal cases in Brazil's history.
Coming up, a stunt goes wrong, turning a daredevil into a human torch. Plus, a stadium wall collapses, sending terrified soccer fans plunging to the ground. When the world's most amazing videos continues.
Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. A championship soccer match is tied with just minutes left to play. Just as the clock runs out, Vitor, the home team's star player, scores the game-winning goal. Vitor runs toward the bleachers to toss his jersey to the frenzied fans, when suddenly the weight of the surging wave of humanity crushes a cement wall. Plunging spectators head first into the concrete below. Look closely as the wall collapses and a flood of bodies comes crashing through. Vitor can hardly bear to watch.
I looked into the pit and I saw the people screaming. I just couldn't believe it.
Vitor climbs down to help his injured fans. Many have suffered broken bones and severe lacerations. Although their moment of triumph quickly turned to tragedy, these fans were lucky to escape with their lives. Auckland, New Zealand. It's Jody Hooker's 26th birthday. But this year's party is going to be one he'll never forget. Jody, in the protective suit, isn't going to be lighting candles on his cake. He's going to be lighting himself on fire. While 300 of his friends celebrate nearby, Jody, a professional daredevil, prepares himself for the death-defying stunt. He is wearing a special suit and mask designed to shield him from the searing 1,000-degree flames. But tonight, Jody doesn't have the help of his highly trained crew. Instead, he has recruited a group of friends, none of whom have any professional pyrotechnic experience. Just moments before the stunt begins, Jody is drenched with 10 gallons of high-octane fuel. The inexperienced assistant is unaware that he is using too much gasoline.
Overkill! Overkill!
It's showtime. The stunt begins when a car races in. An assistant jumps out and tosses a lighted torch at Jody. The flame streaks across the ground, igniting the daredevil. Watch again as Jody is instantly engulfed in a blazing fireball. He is stunned by the intense heat. Jody stumbles toward the crowd as they cheer his every move. They think this is all part of the show. But what they don't know is that Jody's protective suit is not working. It's saturated with fuel and he's in danger of burning alive. Blinded by the intense flames and unable to breathe, Jody staggers toward a parked car and another potential explosion. The heat is unbearable. Jody blacks out and falls to the ground. His friends rush in to extinguish the blaze, but they can't put it out. The horrified crowd now realizes that their friend may not live to see another birthday.
Blanket!
Watch as this man's lack of training almost costs him his life. He tries to smother the fire with a blanket, but a sudden burst of flames blasts him in the face. With no time to spare, one of the partygoers races in with a fire extinguisher and douses the blaze. The inferno is out, but has Jody survived? His body lies motionless. The men quickly remove Jody's mask, but he's still not moving. Then, a sign of life. Jody takes a few shallow breaths. Somehow, he struggles to his feet.
I was panicking. I was trying to get up, and all I wanted to do was get up and run around and get some air.
Jody says using his friends and not a professional stunt crew nearly cost him his life.
The blanket guys panicked. As you can see in the footage, they kept lifting the blankets and letting the fire breathe and kept igniting the fuel.
On this birthday, Jody Hooker received perhaps the greatest gift of all, a second chance at life.